Akashvani. Time for a weekly program, Our Guest. I hand over the mic to the show host, Nitish Arora, for the same.
Welcome to Our Guest. There is one profession which is cynosure of all eyes. Everybody want to be that. But now you got some kind of liberty that you can don that mask even without alighting yourself with anybody. Cutting it short, I'm talking about journalism and mass communication. And I'm very delighted to have Pavni Mittal, independent journalist in the studios today. Pavni, welcome to Akashvani.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pavni is a globetrotter looking for stories, covering stories for various media organizations since long. Pavni, tell us, how did this all started? When did all this started?
You know, when I was growing up in the 90s and 2000s, I think those were the best days of television journalism, particularly in India. You know, you had the Kashmir, and even just generally the quality of public engagement with television journalism was very good. And right after school, actually, I did my internships at TV news channels, and I just realized this is what I wanted to be, because I think journalism is a profession where I found a lot of my other passions sort of converged. So your passion for telling stories, your curiosity, your sort of slightly rebellious anti-establishment streak, and also, you know, your excitement to ask questions to people. When I worked in these news channels, what I enjoyed was the pace. I think just television and broadcasting in general has so much energy because, you know, you're finding your story, you're working in a team, interesting people, you're meeting very interesting people, and I think you get to go to places that you don't get to go to unless you have a press card.
So you are a Delhiite, you were
Yes.
born and brought up here, education was here, and you had planned that you wanted to be in, because exactly 1990s was something when the cable revolution had just started in, and the scene was very nice and everybody wanted to be in front of the camera, to be a journalist. Was it planned, or that era, that time, that planted this into you?
You know, I think you can rewind back to maybe studios like this, because my mother was actually working for Doordarshan and AIR, and sometimes when they needed children to voice something or host something, I was there. So I think I enjoyed that. I also used to be part of debate teams. I used to write. Expressing myself through words has always been a sort of thread that I think has carried me forward, both in my academic life, my, extracurriculars at school, and then of course my professional life. So I think that is something that really shaped me. And, you're writing the first draft of history, you getting to see things as they happen. I think it was just very exciting. It wasn't really planned. My internships were planned. I remember I came back from school and I went to boarding school for 5 years, 8th standard to 12th standard. And right after board exams, I said, I want to do this internship. And, people just look at you saying, yeah, okay, you're 17, what do you know? I applied, I got it, and I was very happy. I would stay in office sometimes till very late. And I think as an intern, internships are very important, because I think what also happens is everybody is willing to teach you. So I worked with some big personalities at NDTV because I just went up to them.
You want to name a few?
Yeah, I worked on one interview that Barkha Dutt did with, I remember Jaya Bachchan. This was before UP elections, and right around the time when Abhishek and Aishwarya got married. I remember that, and I think I don't, when I say worked at it, I must have transcribed some bits or cut some things with the editor. But just the fact that you're on such a big story was also so amazing for someone who was 17. And then, I was applying for college.
I'm already a hero in the peer group. She is working on such story, working with such VVIPs and all.
And, I had the NDTV press card.
Wow.
So I really used that very, I was flaunting it a lot. And the best part is I actually got paid. So at the time, I got, I think, some 4,000 rupees a month.
Not
Which
bad.
is not bad. Aaj bhi they probably pay you the same anywhere else. And I remember I got my first proper mobile phone, which was a Nokia, I think 6300 it's called. It was about 8,000. I bought it myself, and I used to go to college in Delhi University to apply for admissions. I remember going to LSR, filling my form, and going to NDTV because the office was right there in the same.
And also thinking in the heart of my heart, why I'm going to college now, because I'm already I'm something, I've arrived.
Yeah, I mean, I did think that, but again, working with all these people, you got so much career advice, life advice, that I really value. And I remember when I applied and I got into a bunch of programs, I was thinking whether I should take journalism in my undergrad or should I take something like political science or English literature. And everybody said, see, journalism is something that you can also learn on the job or do your master's in. Study a subject, because that sort of liberal arts sort of training shapes your mind. And I think that studying political science and LSR was a game changer for me, because it, the basics of political life, of politics, political theory, we always say Indian education is so theoretical, but I think these theories, when you're studying people like Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau and J.S. Mill, I think you see history, you see the evolution of politics, and you can see the application.
Absolutely, you contemporize it, because you need to have the roots somewhere, and right now the similar kind of principles, they are what work into, and that journalism, coming into journalism, yes, it can be learnt on field also. So how did you get into regular professional journalism after doing your political science majors? You thought of again coming to journalism and
kept coming back. So I did again during college summers. I used to do my internships, and then I went to the Asian College of Journalism in Chennai, which again I think was was really the right thing to do, because one, I think culturally, going to the south of India, coming from the north, was a big eye-opener. Learning.
In what sense?
I think you're also interacting with people from cultures that you probably wouldn't in a place like Delhi.
But there is a cauldron of every culture. Got to get people from everywhere here. So that should not be an issue with somebody who's studied all her life in Delhi.
Yeah, and I went to boarding school in LSR, so there was diversity. But I would say that, when you're in Chennai and you're interacting with people who grew up and have lived there all their life.
Then you became truly cosmopolitan.
Truly, because then you actually see how, we all know that someone who is from a particular ethnicity but lives in Delhi is slightly more, half Delhi, half that. But there you are 100% with people. So you pick up certain language skills, I think so much of education, especially at professional level, has to do with what you're learning from each other. I think that was great. I think the professors I had were really amazing. And I think it is one program, especially for television, where they teach you all aspects of TV. See, I always knew I wanted to be a correspondent, but you also know broadcast is a teamwork. And if you are in TV, if you can know how to produce, if you can film, if you can edit, you will be adaptable. You also understand what your colleagues are doing.
Yes, their difficulties, their challenges, because you would want to have best of camera angles, but unless you are on the other side of the camera handling it and knowing that how difficult it is at times to get that best angle, so only then you can empathize with the person who is on the other side.
Yeah,
so
empathy, and also, this was, 15 years ago, but today I feel like, you see, journalism, so much is, smaller teams, leaner teams, Mojo, Mojo is mobile journalism. When I worked independently in other places, I have sometimes just had my phone, a tripod, and you switch it on and what is the byte frame I need, and I could only do it because I had that. We also did very interesting courses like covering deprivation. So we went to some Naxal hit areas in Odisha, and that was something I would have never done at the age of 21. So you learn how to go to rural places and get the stories, and the skill of doing that and covering rural India. I think those things really shape you.
So let's jump 2 decades now, and you still seem to be that effervescent, that enthusiastic, that childlike passion still existing. How has that remained? Because journalism has actually changed a lot in the last, I would say last 1 decade, when social journalism, social media has set in. So what are the kind of challenges? How are you working now, and how are you liking it?
I really like it. I wouldn't say this is a profession that doesn't have challenges, because I think this is one profession which has both financial challenges from an institutional point of view, and also, when you work around the world, there are many research groups that will say that press freedom globally has really deteriorated. So I think when you're looking at that level, there are those challenges. But I think what keeps someone, and I did another master's in the US, so most of my friends actually are journalists. And I think what I have seen with people is, one thing that makes a journalist good on field and also someone who is good off field is adaptability and resilience. I think even as a storyteller, when you go from, say, rural India to the White House, you have to adapt yourself, what stories you're looking, how you deal with people. And I think with journalism, given the changes technology has brought in, you have to be adaptable. I mean, I have, in between stints as an independent journalist, handled digital media. I have written columns. I'm not someone who, television comes naturally to me because that has been my training. But I think you see the situation you're in and you say, okay, if I want to tell the story in print, I have to adapt my thinking to make sure my audience gets it and I get my story out. So I would say really trying to stay ahead of the curve. I also think cultivating good mentors is very important in any profession, specifically in journalism, because reputation really matters. Your skill at the end of the day is very basic. You tell the truth and you have to fact check. And you spoke about social journalism, but I am a bit skeptical always of a lot of things on social media, because I was told when I was young, and it's something that I always keep in my mind, is a journalist is someone who has an editor. And while I'm sure people have their, I'm not saying what they're saying is incorrect, but to me, you have to have confirmations, you have to have source checks. Like, you cannot put out information, whether it's on social media or even on your private Instagram, without knowing that, because there is a responsibility that you carry. And we've seen that, misinformation and disinformation is a big problem. It's affected elections, it's affected how people react to wars, and it's a global phenomena. So I think...
Are these social journalists are totally free radicals, or do you think that have you ever done a story on this? Are they actually planted? Are they also hired? I think, friends, I'm actually being sucked into this interview because both of us are on same page on many counts, and understanding journalism, being in journalism myself, and talking to Pavni, I have reached almost the last 2 minutes of this interview, which means that this is not sufficient. We will have a part 2 of this also. There's a lot of questions that have come into my mind, and I know that it is very difficult to wrap it up. Fortunately, I can go to next week, carry on with this interview. I hope you don't mind.
Not at all. This is the first time I have someone speaking to me who's not saying, wrap it up, you only have 20 seconds, one more question, when is your deadline? The fact that you're extending the deadline is music to my ears. But I think the thing with journalists also, I have to say, is we love talking about ourselves, we love awarding ourselves. I think we can indulge.
And very rarely we do get that chance, because you're almost asking people questions and not facing them. And it's good. I think you want to share that piece of your life with my listeners, that how this all developed. So we were talking about, my question was, to wrap up this particular episode today, the part 1 of this interview is, do you think that these social media journalists, are they actually totally free radicals, or they are also like planted, supplied, used, abused? As you said that we change elections, the outcome of elections, we do so many things. Tell me something about it. Have you done a story on this?
Not specifically, but we do a lot of training on how social media can affect you. And when it started, it's a very good source to reach out to people. If I want to speak to someone in some part of the world, I don't have their contact, say, post to them. Earlier it used to be tweet to them, but you do things, or you DM someone on Instagram or Facebook. I think social media has a bit of everything. So, you said either this or that. I would say you would have both. I think, again, as journalists, you have to be very careful, and, you have to do a little bit of your own fact check. Who is this person who is saying this? And I think mostly people on social media are not journalists, so they do get swayed. I think, you talk about WhatsApp University, you speak about now deep fakes and all those things. And I think there is, and I'm a product of legacy media. I have I've only worked with your old schools type of companies. So CNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, PBS, Al Jazeera, France 24. These are legacy brands. And I think...
So we'll carry on with this legacy in our part 2 of this conversation. A very interesting conversation. Friends, I'm in conversation with Pavni Mittal. She is an independent journalist, born and brought up in Delhi, and now is a global journalist as well. We'll continue with this very nice, interesting conversation in our part 2. Thank you so much for being here. We'll talk about lots of other things next week.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back.
You were listening to the weekly program Our Guest that is broadcast every Monday at 9:15 a.m. Don't forget to tune in next week, same day, same time and same frequency for more on Our Guest. Have a nice day.